Now, a new study says that catastrophic climate change outcomes, including human extinction, are not being taken seriously enough by scientists. The authors say the consequences of more extreme warning, something still on the cards if no action is taken, are dangerously underexplored. They want UN scientists to investigate the risk of catastrophic change. Let's go live to Cambridge in the UK now. Luke Kemp is one of the authors of the new report. Luke, just first of all, lay out briefly for us what you found in this study.
Good afternoon. What we found in this study was that there are multiple pathways in which climate change could result in a global catastrophe. These include the direct impacts, simply overwhelming the societal capacity to adapt, systemic risk, so numerous different knock-on effects cascading together, whether that be new zoonotic infections or a financial crisis, for instance, and climate change triggering other catastrophes such as nuclear war. And last but not least, climate change preventing our recovery from another disaster.
So what is it that you're wanting scientists to look at more?
Two things. First of all, looking at higher temperature scenarios. A series of text mining reports of the IPCC I contributed to found that temperature rise above 3 degrees was largely underexplored relative to its probability. And secondly, is doing more complex risk assessment, looking at these risk cascades and knock-on effects. When it came to COVID-19, we knew how the disease spread, but we weren't prepared for the biggest impact, which was things like healthcare system collapse and its knock-on effects. And we need to be prepared for climate change.
So it sounds like you're saying we're not being doom and gloom enough about what's at stake with climate change, even though some might say, but we probably are.
To the contrary, when you actually look at the evidence, we are under-exploring the catastrophic scenarios of climate change. And the problem has been that historically, because of the emergence of doubt in the fossil fuel industry, anytime scientists get close to looking at the catastrophic impacts, they are accused of alarmism. And quite to the contrary, right now we're being overly naive, if not fatally foolish, to the worst case scenarios.
I mean, is it hard to bring this kind of news to people when really most people now are just looking for a light at the end of the tunnel, are looking for some hope? And you seem to be saying, actually, we need to be taking this even more seriously and things are worse than even what we've presented so far.
Indeed, in some ways. However, we know that you can talk about these worst case scenarios and these extreme risks for people without them becoming despondent. You just simply need to let them know that there's also hope and what they can do as well. And we hope to use the latest results in terms of communicating climate change to make sure this doesn't result in simple inaction. And quite to the contrary, I think when people realize how much is at stake, it's more likely to propel action.
Well, let's talk about one of the things you've found, which is that estimates of the impacts of a temperature rise of 3 degrees Celsius are actually underrepresented compared to their likelihood. Could you unpack that finding for us?
Indeed. So this is based upon two text mining reports of the IPCC report. So basically, we looked at the number of mentions of different temperature rise scenarios, and we compared these to two different plausible warming scenarios in the future, 550 and 700 parts per million. Both of these are very much kind of middle of the road scenarios for emissions. And we found that 3 degrees and above was massively underexplored, while 1.5 and 2 degrees were overrepresented. This is most likely due to the goals of the Paris Agreement, which focus upon 1.5 and 2 degrees and limiting to those temperatures. It's also likely because it's harder to look at these high temperature scenarios. And as mentioned, that there's incentives for climate scientists to err on the side of least drama and to not be.
I'm really sorry to jump in, Luke, but that's all the time we have. Luke Kemp, thank you very much for joining us, though, today.